Are you sitting comfortably? Well, I am, and if the ants don't crawl over my legs, because we are getting a massive amount of ants all over the garden, which they're entitled to because they live outdoors, they don't live indoors, and when it's rained a bit like it just has, then you get lots and lots of ants going madly everywhere. So sometimes you get lots of them up your legs and that, but we try not to hurt them because they cannot be little ants, they're just doing what they do. They're not actually politicians, are they? They're not purposely. They say no, it's not personal with them. They don't have any sort of evil intentions. But this is a story of how aliens may well take over the rulership of planet Earth and rescue us, the good aliens, rescue us from the reptilians. So this is a scenario, because they say, what is a reptilian, first of all, and people say rubbish the idea what David Icke saying they are reptilians. A reptilian is a person, a human being, that has got no emotions whatsoever towards anything other than themselves. They might look after their children a bit, make sure their children are fed, but they don't have a great deal of emotional attachment to their children. They want to see their children do well because that's a genetic purpose of life itself. But beyond that, they don't have any outer feelings towards humans. Humans are there to devour, and they sort of devour their income at least, without any conscience whatsoever. That to me is a sort of reptilian way of thinking, and we have that now within the government, the human governments of the world. Regardless, they don't look like reptilians, they act and feel like reptilians in what they do. In England, for instance, the people have overwhelmingly voted for a Brexit, but the reptilians in the Parliament don't care. They don't really have no feelings whatsoever towards the British people. The people in the EU, a bunch of reptilians for certain, they know that the people in Britain have voted for Brexit, and they have got they don't care. There's no feelings whatsoever. That's her reptilian nature. In the US, in the Pentagon and that, and Washington, I can't speak too much about it, but it seems to be that they also like to keep as many people in their country in poverty and struggling as much as they can, and feeding off them massively like parasites, gobbling up all the currency to spend on armaments, because they want to create fear in the world. Because when you create fear in the world, like fear for climate change, or fear for Chinese, or fear of Russians, or fear of Muslims, whatever, then you have control over the people. And this is what this is all about. The political correctness is a program codex that is about, is a psychological control over the human population. At least those populations that normally have evolved to be more free in their instincts than those who sort of have a limited freedom because of their religion. It's where they are in their religious evolution, and that the religion keeps them thinking to a limit. You can't think beyond a certain limit. And that's what the PC is trying to take everyone down to a certain limit. So when they say diversity, what they mean, don't mind if you're a different colour, if you've got a different background like that, or from a different place in the world, but they don't want you to get beyond a certain level of thinking. That difference, that real difference in humanity, being a totally free thinker, original thinker, that's the difference they don't like, they're trying to cut out. And anyway, but this is, to me, a possibility, a scenario of how a good alien race can come down, and because they're saying the aliens run the Washington, and aliens run the parliaments, well, let's pretend it's true for a minute, the bad aliens, that is. So one day, just for imagine, a bunch of flying saucers, they come straight down. They come just boom, in a minute, in a second, from in the heavens, actually, from heavens, up in the heaven, all these flying saucers are suddenly suspended over the Western nations in particular, over their parliaments. And out of these flying saucers descend a bunch of robotic soldiers. And what they have on them is freezer guns. They're not there to arm anyone. They're there to create a situation of suspended animation amongst all the politicians and that have become reptilian in their mind towards the population, and no longer make a decision that's beneficial to the population. And this program, in the freezer guns, they're called freezer guns, suspended animation guns, doesn't stop the people functioning bodily. It doesn't stop them eating and sleeping and doing those things. It stops them thinking, because they don't think anyway. I mean, they're not actually thinking beings anymore, because they're reptilian beings. Reptilian beings don't think beyond what's in it for me, and that's what that reptilian being is. So this program automatically seeks out the difference between those politicians that are still caring for people and those politicians that are turned into what I call reptilian politicians, and just using democracy to feather their own nests, if you like, and further their own genetic code. Their own personal genetic code will do well regardless of the rest of it, and that's basically the ideology of the riverbank or swamp, if you like. It's not a human ideology to sort of, well, it is in a way, but it shows you the beast in the human is coming out when so many have no further feelings. They can be in politics and absolutely totally lie all the time about so many different things. We won't go into how many lies they're telling, because that's contagious. People don't like being told the truth, and this is another problem. People just don't like being told the truth anymore. That humans, especially in Australia and America, can't do much about climate change, because you can't do much about the Chinese and Indians and other people who will continue trying to improve their lives. Because climate change in itself is a means of rich people getting rich off the poor, whilst at the same time pretending they're saving the poor's children in the future from some future weather event. It makes about as much sense as saying I'm also going to change the shape of the clouds. If you vote for me, in future the clouds will be elephant shaped, because that's about as much sense as it makes. Now, these robots, they come down the freezer, and then they have the freezer guns, and they take over and cause a sort of suspended animation of the mind of all the people in Parliament and all the people across the place who have a violent tendency towards others, aggressive. Now, aggression and violence is normal in humans because we have to defend ourselves if needs be. But when it's created into society through artificial means, oh, we've all got to fear the Chinese, oh, the Chinese are coming, the Chinese are coming. No, they're not. If you look at the history of China, it's never attacked anyone. In its whole of its history, the Chinese have a philosophy that we never strike first. And if you go to China, I spent a year there, it's the most peaceful place I've ever been to. The people are so polite. I went there where there was millions of people on a day out, and Yung Tai Shan Mountains, there was thousands, millions and millions of people, 2 million people there that day. And no, it was the most pleasant, wow, I was sort of impressed. Of course, there are tensions and pressures arise amongst any population, and you do get government needs to have some sort of emotional control over the people, because otherwise you need order, especially when you've got millions and millions of people, 1.4 billion people in China. You can't break that down, and like the Western governments a desire to destroy the peace and harmony in China, but say, oh, you must have democracy. Well, democracy is now, which is a brilliant thing, but the democracy we've got in the West is being used by reptilians on both sides of the Parliament to feather their own nest and feed money into sort of massive armament deals, where you won't need any armament deals at all, or very little, if you didn't create the fear in the first place about people that may have no ill intentions towards you whatsoever. I mean, the hangover then we have about Russia, and Russia's not a very, some of those people are not very nice people, but why aren't they nice people? Let's have a look at the psychology. It's because they were taken over by reptilians. For many years, for hundreds of years, the Russians were ruled by people with reptilian minds, with no care whatsoever towards the human population. And that sort of oppression of the rest of it is now, it's had its ramifications for every, you push one way, you always get a push back. Cause and effect, it is. And that means that now Russia has generated a sort of a potential to do serious harm, like poisoning people and stuff like that, because those people, you have to look what is the cause of those people being so horrible as to poison people, to murder them. It's because they've got something inside them that causes a massive amount of hatred towards other humans. So you have to look at things always in a compassionate context, always look at things from a compassionate lens, to try and resolve what is the cause of something, rather than be automatically animated towards enmity, like everyone seems to want to be, especially in the Western press. That's more about stirring up trouble between people than it is creating peace and understanding. So the press in itself is basically arms of the reptilian part of the culture, if you like, that runs the government and runs the banks and corporations. Not that everyone amongst them is reptilian, but they're caught up within certainly within a reptilian mentality that then guides and controls everyone. So just imagine these good aliens come down, what are totally into another way of thinking. That if you have peace, where people don't have these aggressive tendencies, you don't have to. It doesn't mean you take away humans' ability to compete with each other or challenge each other intellectually or physically. It's just that's done with a more enlightened attitude, maybe like the Greeks had, where they had the Greeks had their Olympics and intellectual debates and stuff like that. And sure, once people get power over a couple of generations, that goes to their head and they become reptilian. See, power over several generations in the same family will create a sort of separate species of thinking within that family, and that happens all over the world. This is the reptilian nature of things. That's why this way we got all these robotic soldiers with the animation guns come down, and they take over and freeze the minds of all the people in politics, and especially all the ones with reptilian thoughts. It picks them out, the program purposely picks them out, and in society it goes around in the iPhones, in an instant, all those people, there's a nasty, aggressive tension towards other people, whatever the cause is. No one's to blame for this. People are a result of the genetic process, result of the cultural process, result of a religious process, whatever it is, the social tensions and whatever. They're the result of that. That's a natural cause of it, what causes people then, because humans aren't naturally aggressive really in their natural state. They live in a sort of harmoniously with each other, to some extent, advanced humans that is. More primitive ones maybe taking a resort to using clubs and stuff like that, and the use of horrible words towards each other, which is now the ongoing thing belongs to PC crowd, the left, but says, well, we're all the nice people. They immediately resort to using clubs of nasty, horrible words as soon as anyone disagrees with them on any particular thing, or even if they don't disagree with them, if they don't like them, they can be confronted now, and it's a front for any slight whatsoever against someone, and it might be because someone is something that they don't like, or like someone's a Christian, and these people hate Christianity, for instance, and now they sort of attack people naturally, regardless of like the person who's a Christian might be really good to his wife and kids, and that might be a really good person. The people on the left who are anti-Christian, or they're anti-people being nice. If it's an outward show of people genuinely being nice to each other, like some people are, because it's their Christian tendency, but they don't rave about their Christianity, they might not even go to church, but they're outwardly nice to people, and altruistic towards people. The left hate that, and that's why they attack people. But then they're over-generous with taxation, over-generous with distribution up to other people. Look, we're buying you, look, we're giving you lots and lots of Big Macs, we're giving you lots of ice creams, look how wonderful we are, children, never mind that is going to make you fat and dumb. And we're not going to tell you anything at school that's going to upset you, like, we're going to give you actually thoughts that will upset others in class, like you can work out things for yourself, because working things out for yourself is a big difference the left stand totally unified against. They want total conformity of thinking, uniformity in emotional effect, and uniformity intellectual processing. That's what the left are. They're trying to create a different human, in other words, that is not actually a natural human, because natural humans aren't like that. Yet natural humans ask questions. But anyway, get these robots come down, and they take over Hollywood. I mean, and Hollywood as well. But is Washington Hollywood? I just wondered. There's a thought reactors together there. Washington, maybe that's Hollywood. Who knows? But it's like an Hollywood scene anyway, if you look at it, and what's going on in there. But then they all freeze the minds of these people. Don't stop them drinking and eating, and don't stop them going to the toilet and all that sort of stuff, because that's the only function they really need. They're not using their minds anyway. How many politicians are actually using their mind in the British Parliament or the Australian Parliament? Well, the Australian Parliament, not. I can tell you that for certain. I can't speak too much for America, but in Australia there's not one original thought allowed within the whole of the community of Australian politicians. So you can say they're not using their minds, so they don't need them. But they need to have the basic function of the body so that they can eat or sleep, and it won't disrupt their conversational limits because they don't talk about anything. So you don't actually say anything, or say exactly the same, which is really strange. You've got thousands of people now saying exactly the same thing about all in unanimous agreement on all the different things. Unless you're a Muslim, of course, which is a very odd thing, a very odd case. The very people who are totally supportive and defensive towards Muslims are defending the very antithesis to what they actually stand for, which is they stand for being non-sexist, being agreeable to homosexuality, being all having to agree on climate change. And yet, if you're a Muslim, you can be, can have 2 wives, which is not a bad idea if you think about it. Anyway, I won't go into that because it might upset someone. But you can have 2 wives or 3 wives. Well, even that's I'm getting off the track with the thought of that. But and you can think. You can say what you like about homosexuals. In fact, some countries they behead and treat homosexuals, and anyone that has a drink, have a few beers, and you're in trouble in some of these Muslim countries. And you can certainly say what you like about climate because you put it all down to God. But the left are totally supportive of all that, which is really strange. Really, they're totally supporting the antithesis of what they are so against. If it comes into normal society, which is right odd when you think about it. That's really odd. It's not only just reptilian, it's deranged. It's actually borderline insanity when you're saying one thing, you mean another. Well, what do you mean? Well, no, we support Muslims being homophobic and sexist and saying what God creates the climate. No, we totally support that. But if you say, well, I'm a bit dubious about homosexuals, or I fancy women, or I've got my own, I can make my own mind up, thank you, about climate, because I can make my own mind up about climate, because I can do that. And many other people, anyone can make their own mind up about climate. But when you're being told by what people are obviously not very bright, then you have to believe what they believe. And believe me, the politicians in Australia aren't very bright when it comes to science itself. They've never done one iota of research on anything. And in fact, they haven't even done the slightest bit of maths or accounting on this subject. But they've got to believe what they say about climate, even though you can see straight away it's silly. Actually, it's gone to the point of being actually rather silly, because maybe they're not just reptilian now, they've gone over the top and become sort of frogs, if you like. The reptilian have descended to amphibians, because there's a break there. You're going to start breaking down the evolution chain and what's the most intelligent. Well, the reptilian's more intelligent than a frog, because reptilians have got to go hunt. They've got to hunt. So when you're a hunter, you've got to hunt your food. You've got to save weight, you've got to be cunning and sneaky. You'll learn a cunning mind. Crocodiles aren't dumb. Crocodiles are extremely clever animals. They know what time someone comes every day to their swamp, then they can take them out. Well, frogs don't, you see. Frogs and toads, they just sit there hoping flies land on their face, and that's basically. So, maybe I'm wrong about the reptilian thing in the politics. Maybe they've turned into sort of amphibian instead. Sort of another sort of, if you like, breakthrough in evolutionary tree, if you like. Because when evolution happens, it's in different trees caused by different environmental situations and pressures at that time, brings out different branches of evolution. But that's a different pattern. Back to this, in the next year, you can imagine these robots coming down from the good aliens. We don't even have to show them. So they come down from heaven and they take over the politics and parliaments of the world, freeze their little minds. They're not using them. Well, politicians aren't actually using their minds, let's face it. And then just replace the humans, these reptilian-like humans, or amphibian-like humans, like humans, with a program. And all the program does, it says, well, you can all be free and be what you like, but don't be aggressive. You can't be aggressive. You can't be aggressive with anyone, but you can be competitive. You can compete with anyone. You can work harder than someone. You can challenge them intellectually. You can do whatever you like. You can run faster than someone. I mean, are the left saying everyone must run the same speed in the Olympics now? Everyone at the Olympics must all run the same speed and all come first. No one is allowed to come last in the Olympics. In any event, all must lift the same weight, swim the same distance, and run the same speed, and jump the same height, because that would be the exact world the left are trying to create. Not actually so there's any. Everyone must have the same results in all the exams, which is basically everyone's failed, in other words, to actually create their own cognitive process, which is also what the left are trying to do. They're trying to destroy the cognitive process themselves in amongst the people, so they're creating not a reptilian mind when you think about it, because reptilians are hunters and sneaky and cunning and all that sort of stuff to survive, and creating an amphibian mind, an amphibious mind like frogs and toads, you know, so they don't think people just sit there and gormless and tweeting all day, right? There's much difference between tweeting all day and catching flies, really. And there's probably more skill in catching flies and tweeting the gormless tweets that many people tweet. But there you go. So we can see that maybe by now these reptilians that are taken over, not actually reptilians, more like amphibians, if you like, and like frogs and toads, because they don't think in any way that gives you any idea that they've got cognition. Because everyone starts saying the same, talking the same and thinking the same, well, basically, I have to say that, what can you say? They've lost their humanity, because if you can't ask questions, if you can't say, I've had original thought, and you're going to get hammered for having an original thought, well, that's the destruction of humanity itself. That's what these reptilians in politics are doing. Oh, sorry, amphibians. Amphibious people, well, amphibians. That's what they are. I mean, soon they'll be getting webbed feet and all that, that's what, look, a politician who's got webbed feet, take his shoes off, there's webbed feet there. Anyway, I just thought I'd put there how the good aliens come down in a spaceships all over our parliaments, drop down these robots with animation guns, and they freeze the minds of these people, and then we can sort out a new program so that humans are no longer run by these aggressive, whatever they are, everyone living in fear of even having an original thought. But anyway, if you become a Muslim, you can be sexist, homophobic, and be a climate denier, and totally get supported by the people who are totally against all that sort of stuff. Well, you think about that for a minute. The insane have taken over our parliaments. Bye.